you. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to call the Wednesday, January 4th, 3 o'clock school board workshop meeting to order. Before we begin, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful, happy new year for a great year for 2023. Would you all rise for a moment of silence, pledge allegiance, and our national anthem. Moment of silence. Thank you. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Start with roll call at the far end.
Will Furry, present.
Christy Chong, present.
Sally Hunt.
Colin Conklin, present.
Cheryl Lucero.
Kathy Middlestad. Happy New Year, Board.
Happy New Year. All right, we're going to go down to adoption of agenda. Are there any changes to this current agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I want to make light of the special announcements, a proclamation that you don't see listed here. We will get it added to your agenda item. February is Black History Month, so we would like to do that proclamation at our January meeting in 2 weeks. And as you have made recommendations, we are bringing members of our community to participate in that proclamation that evening. So if that's
Very
okay
good.
with you, we'll make that agenda change today.
Okay, very good. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we're good to go. Then we're going to jump into public comment. Do we have any public comment at this time?
There's no public comment at this time.
Next, then, we're going to go through resources and supports for consent. Okay, Ms. Womack will be coming to the table. So 7:01 to 7:08. We'll start at 7:01.
Good afternoon, Chair Macero, board members, and Superintendent Middlestad. Myself,
Here.
thank you too. To all of you, myself and Ms. Whitmore, our finance director, will be happy to answer any questions you have.
I think that you addressed my one question that I was having about the impact fees, which is the last one, I believe.
7.08.
Yes, because when I looked at the impact fees, I was concerned when I saw that there was a marked difference between the first quarter now and the first quarter before. Yeah, and I think Patty explained that in an email to me. Would you like to explain that again?
Sure. The bulk of the impact fees is the city of Palm Coast. And normally we get the first 3 quarters, the first 3 months in one check. It probably had to do with the change of the amount that went into effect September 1st, but the first check we got was only July and August. So the September one didn't come till later, so it wasn't captured in that first amount that we normally would just assume is the first quarter. So I did correct it and add it. So it was previously, I think, about 1.3 million. So this September one was a little over $700,000. So this is the correct reflection of July through September for City of Palm Coast.
Yeah, and that looks better. That looks much better than when I originally saw. So I'm very glad to see that. That's why I drew attention to that. All right, Board, any other questions on any of those items? Mr. Fury?
Not for me, no.
No? Okay, I did have a question. I see that we're finally getting to purchase our buses.
I'm going to bring Mr. Rouse up
Yes,
to
Dr.
speak
Rouse.
about that.
Good morning, Board. Good morning. Good afternoon, Board and
Yeah.
Superintendent.
Good day. All right, we're starting, so it's good to see that we're getting into the process of finally getting what you explained to us bus-wise. My concern is I see that we're buying only one large bus at 88 passenger, and we're buying 4 of the 77 passenger buses.
Mhm.
All right. Is that going to be enough with our growing population? I want to make certain that in a couple of years, if the projections come through, we're going to be larger in most of our regions and our areas. So are we going to be okay? Could you kind of explain?
What we're doing now, we have put that into planning for long range, looking at student numbers as they increase, and we have been in conversation between myself and Patty on developing a plan to look at what capital we need for bus purchases moving forward, and how to plan to bring that to you guys to be able to see if we can work that in over the next couple of years.
Okay, so with this, you think we should be, see, my concern is I don't want to 3 years from now decide we have to buy bigger buses and they're going to cost us more than $30,000 each. Because, I mean, 30,000 plus of the smaller buses. That's about what the difference is right now. It's roughly around 30,000. So 5 years down the road, it's probably going to be $40,000 or $50,000 difference on each bus. So I just want to make sure we're kind of balancing our large buses and our small buses so we do have enough space. And that was my concern when I looked at that.
Yes, we do have a plan for to implement over the years. So the buses that are currently on docks to be approved to be purchased, there's 184, there's 177, which we currently run a large fleet of the 77, and then we have the inclusion buses that are on 77 frames, which allow us to
Expand.
either add capacity or decrease
Okay.
capacity.
Okay, that's excellent. That's great. Thank you. That was my question on that. Any other questions on the buses? I have also a question which is not you, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And this is one for Patty, so she can just help me with the community. We're spending almost $13,000, $12,791 on Matanzas football helmets. And I
Yes.
know we have to buy football helmets and we have to recondition them on a pretty regular basis. What is the going price today on a football helmet?
$500 each.
There you go.
So
And I
that-
don't think the community understands that football helmets are so expensive that they are $500 each.
And plus the ongoing maintenance, like you
Sure,
said.
right, the reconditioning.
So that purchase order you're referring to for Rydell is 25 football helmets, and it includes a couple $100 for shipping.
Yep. So I think that will help the general public understand that
Oh, they're
football
expensive.
helmets are extremely expensive, and we gotta keep those kids as safe as we possibly can.
I'm curious, whatever happened to, do you remember a couple of years ago, I think it was when Jacob was here, maybe Jim was here, when we had the group come in
Sensors.
about the sensors in the football helmets.
I do believe they still do that. Yeah,
Do
that's
these,
all.
are these the ones with
Yes.
the sensors? Okay.
I think that's.
This is the company, I think that's the company that came in.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's the Rydell Insight, and both schools still.
Still do
So
that.
it's both, we're
Yeah.
still using them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
I had just one item I wanted to address, if you don't mind, Chair.
Go right ahead.
At the last meeting, Dr. Conklin, you asked about the dues and fees for the charter school.
Yeah.
I wanted to just let you know, that consists of 2 fees. The bulk of it consists of 2 fees that go to its management company. So they pay a admin fee that is $30,000 each year. They pay it $2,500 each month. And then they also have what's called an indirect cost allocation for their performance of their job. and that's 12% of their state revenue. So that's, last year was $805,000. I can't remember when this changed. I think it was a couple years ago, because I remember Ms. Gavin and I presented it. Something changed with this contract language.
So it's, what is it, performance?
It says it's an indirect cost allocation for performance of its responsibilities. So that's paid to the management company, and it's 12% of state revenue. And Ms. Gavin, I can't remember, do you remember when this changed? I thought it was a couple years ago.
Yeah, I think it was when, right after they had done their refinancing or rebundling of their.
Performance in what way? Student achievement? What is performance?
No, performance with the company that they
The management
use,
company.
The management company. So the services that the management company is providing
Provides.
to them, their performance.
That's still as clear as
It's,
mud to me.
in other words, it's their cost affiliated with their providing the services to the school, whether it's going to be assisting them with their policies. They do not use our policies, for example. The management company provides them their, policy revisions.
So it's their administrative fee, really?
Correct.
Correct.
But they can't call it an administrative fee.
Well, they
I
have
don't know
one,
that.
so they can't.
Yeah,
They
they might
already have
have
one.
labeled it something different.
So they have to be
I
different.
would think that language comes from, like, we have indirect costs on all of our grants, and we get charged, or the grants get charged for the admin portion of it.
But usually that's like 5 or 3%.
Correct, it's a calculation that
Or
we have to
0.
go through the state.
Right.
So, yeah, some,
12%.
Who
Yeah.
sets that, who would set that fee, that 12%?
that would be
The state?
between the
Between the
charter
management
school and the
company and the
management
charter school.
company.
Okay, gotcha.
So that fee last year was $805,000, so together, their total fees paid to the management company was about $835,000. And that's in their contract, and you'll continue to see that duplicated again this year.
Okay.
The amount might vary depending on their revenue, but that's the bulk of it.
I appreciate you finding that.
You're welcome.
All right, do we have any other questions for Ms. Patty? Ms. Whitmore? That's it. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, we're going to go next to academic services consent. That's 9:01 to 9:04. Any comments, questions?
Just that I think people have to grow, and I mean, it's important to see the kids out doing what they're doing and competing, and it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, the ROTC, Matanzas ROTC going to Savannah, that's really going to be a great trip for that group. So I'm excited about that. I was looking here too. The Starlets, FPC Starlets are finally trying to get, they've been around for a very long time, and they're finally trying to get some national recognition. So it's nice to see them traveling to Plant City for that. And then finally, the Youth Center, they've sponsored this for a number of years. Advocacy Day is where there are at least 6 to 8 students that go to Tallahassee and get to speak with their legislators.
I mean, it's great.
We don't have that very often, and these legislators are wonderful because they really want to hear from students. So it's nice to see that interaction. So I certainly am a strong advocate of supporting that too. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, we're going to fly by that. All right, going down into the personnel, that would be 11.01, request for board approval of personnel items. If you looked at that sheet, nothing stuck out to me. Anybody else?
I just, when you see we're losing teachers again, it's just, but I'm sure everybody's got their reason. At some point, will we get a summary of some sort of exit interview information?
Mr. Olet, would you join us, please? Well, yes, but
If
it's a
this is-
constant issue.
And Board Chair, if this is new business that you'd like to bring back to a workshop, let's go through that process, or if this is just general
I think it's general.
information with what
Yeah.
you see on the
I don't know
docs.
if it's new business. I feel like I bring up the
Bring-
conversation of exit interviews
You do.
constantly.
Yeah.
And the response rate in the past, the time I've been here prior to that, has been 4 as far as the response rate to the exit survey. What you get a lot are the resignations, and the reasons embedded in resignation. Matter of fact, I read 4 different resignations today, and they're the range from a new job to I have a relative that's still very ill out of state that I'm going to stay with, where they were planning on coming back out of a leave of absence. I've reached out to tech services to go ahead and turn our survey into an electronic format, a one-pager that attaches to the path. And I looked at something that I know that, like, if you go onto like Duval's website, for example, I've been searching around, it's right there. I don't want to put our exit survey on our website. I'd rather see it as a part and a function of something that happens at that time where you decide to offboard.
Can we make it some part of a trigger where it has to be completed in order to go to the next step?
Well, I think what we're looking at is making it very invitational at that moment. What we don't want to do, and like I said, I've been working with tech on this to try and get it so that it becomes almost like when we did the QR codes for the most recent job fair, where you were able to register with that by just doing the QR code. Because we have a range of folks. Some of them will want to do that paper pencil on the back, and then we'll have to manual input. Other folks will want to do a QR code on their phone. My hope is to catch it situationally at that moment where you go to the bookkeeper or to the administrator and do that resignation. So I'm just kind of waiting for my final discussion back with tech services on that. But
Appreciate that update.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions then on anything with human resources? That's 11. Then we're going to move down to academic services, 16.01. And I'm going to ask Ms. Williams to join us at the table. This is an MOU with Presbyterian Counseling Services. Okay, and we have Mr. Jackson here.
Hello, hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to both.
Good afternoon, Board, Chairman, and Superintendent. It's our pleasure this afternoon to bring before you one of our MOUs for one of our new service providers for mental health, the Presbyterian Counseling Center. As you know, this is connected to Goal 3, which we want to make sure that we find licensed facilities to be able to support our students in the area of counseling when needed. So Ms. Williams has been working very closely with Presbyterian, so we're here to answer any questions if you have any. This is our standard language that we've put into our MOUs, so definitely this was one of our strategic goals, was to bring on board as many MOU providers as we can to make sure we support our kids. So
We're pretty strategic, I think, as you guys know, about who we want to partner with. We have minimum mandates in the MOU that dictate that the clinicians have to be licensed, or they have to be under a state qualified licensed supervisor. So Presbyterian serves to fill a gap for folks that we have a difficulty with placing that have certain types of insurance in our community. So they carry people like, our insurances like Blue Cross Blue Shield and TRICARE, which are typically very difficult to place in Flagler County.
No Medicaid.
They do take Medicaid as well, but those we don't typically have difficulty placing folks with. We're extending this because they have the ability to fill that gap for us.
How long have we been working with Presbyterian?
We've not
So
worked
this
with
is
them
brand new.
in, yeah,
This is
because
brand
we
new?
don't have an MOU in place with them.
Okay.
We've worked with them in other capacities,
Right.
like we work with them to connect students when they're doing specific programs or things like that, but we can't direct refer to them without the MOU. So that's why we're asking for the MOU.
Is there any type of evaluation structure in place when we work with these agencies at the end of their contracts, or to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
So we do have an end of the year eval where we run reports to see how long it's taking for them to connect with their families, and if they're not connecting with them within the 15 and 30 days that's mandated. We're reviewing those reasons why. Unfortunately, most of the time that's just parent connect and parent callback. Is just taking a little bit longer.
Okay.
But we do have all of the stopgaps in place to be able to run those reports at the end of the year.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I have at least one.
Yes, go ahead.
new, so it's gonna be a
Sure.
newbie question. Can you provide like a real-world example of what this would look like, one of our students, like a day in the life of a student who needs these services? What?
Sure.
That'd be great.
So our mental health plan is based on a tiered system. So this is a tier 3 service that they're specifically requesting. So these are clinical outpatient services where a student has met criteria for a mental health disorder and they need to be linked for therapy. So these are clinical outpatient services. So typically when a student is struggling and has been identified and the parent has asked us to run a referral, meaning the parent has requested and has signed consent for us to share the information, we would then facilitate a referral to the agency that accepts their insurance.
So we
This
are
is one of those.
facilitating the process. These are not services we are providing as a school. We are the facilitator.
Not when we refer to an agency. We do have a team of clinicians that we have on staff as a Flagler School employee that provides services for students, again, for families who have requested the service, have signed consent. If they're uninsured or underinsured, we have clinicians on campus that can provide services.
Okay, good. And just to let you know that where my questions are coming from, obviously I see Presbyterian. I'm a Lutheran pastor's daughter,
Mhm.
so my question is, if one of our students is getting care through us, I would want to make sure that there's not philosophical or religious
Sure.
things
and
that
any
are at
parent-
play here, if that's making any sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I would, yes. So I was kind of curious. It's not faith-based counseling.
Well, no, it's not faith-based counseling. They provide counseling services for depression, anxiety, for mental health disorders.
Yeah.
They provide it at a facility that is Presbyterian, but any parent can decline if they would prefer to go somewhere else. We can link them with a different provider if they have concerns about being a Presbyterian.
Okay. And I think this goes back maybe a question that you asked. Obviously, if a family is not happy with the services, they could let somebody know to say, hey, this was said to my child, and we could then reevaluate the partnership or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Point. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions I can answer?
Anyone else? We all good with this?
Good.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
So much more consent.
No.
That's good. All right, we're going to go to 16.02, have Ms. Kirkland join us. This is request board approval for ILA with Flagler County regarding FTC's EMT program ride time requirements.
Good afternoon, Board, Chair, Superintendent. A little history. In 2018, Flagler Technical College implemented the Emergency Medical Technician Program to tag on to the firefighting program at Flagler Palm Coast High School, which provides a post-secondary option to those students who have gone through the firefighting program at FPC. So it is now a dual enrollment program, and so it's open to adult students and then also those firefighting students their senior year that have completed the firefighter portions. What's required of the industry is both the firefighter and the EMT and then eventually paramedics, but they would get hired on with the combination of those two. So that's a little bit of the history, and this is a renewal. This has been in place since the implementation of the program, and it's a renewal to allow for ride time on the ambulances for our students to provide that clinical, real-life portion of the program. And it's related to Goal 1. This was approved by the county on December 19th.
Yeah. I was originally concerned about, I wanted to make sure it was for adults, and it is. You said it does they have to be 18 and older to participate, correct?
Not all of them are 18 or older. Some of the dual enrollment students that are seniors are close to 18, and they are 18 when they take their exam.
Okay, so then that does raise my question about parental consent.
Yes.
They have to have parental consent, I would assume, before they're allowed to participate. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That was what my question was originally. And I heard adult and thought, okay, then they don't need it. But if they are younger than 18, they need parental consent.
They do.
Perfect.
They do.
Anybody have any other questions?
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it seems like a great program. You said this is a renewal, so basically nothing's changed in this agreement from the previous one?
Nothing has changed in its content. What has changed is from Flagler Technical Institute to Flagler Technical College, and some of the wording, their attorney did change, but nothing that is substantial or makes a difference in the services that were provided.
Okay. And with that language, did the school board attorney review that?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
okay, did, okay.
Yeah, I reviewed it, made some changes. It went back to their legal. They approved those changes prior to everything going forward.
Okay.
So it was fully vetted through legal.
And no other questions? Thank you. Appreciate your help and input.
Thank you.
All right, moving down to 17, operational services, and I would ask Mr. Finelli to join us to request board approval for updated code of conduct to include updated assessor definitions.
All right, good afternoon,
One of my
Board Chair.
favorite topics here.
School Board, Superintendent Middlestat, Happy New Year to everybody. So, December 16th of 2022, DOE sent out a memo regarding changes to assessor reporting that goes into effect January 17th, 2023. So it gave us 4 weeks through the holidays to get this updated and out and trained. So this is a very quick turnaround time. I prepared a little presentation today to give some background knowledge on assessor, because I know we do have some new board members here today, so this will kind of bring you up to speed on what assessor reporting is.
Perfect.
So assessor stands for School Environmental Safety Incident Reporting. So there are certain things that occur on a school campus, discipline related, sometimes law violations, that we are required to report to the state. So they want to know when these things happen on our campuses. They also want to know if law enforcement was involved, and they also want to know what we did about it. So, moving through, the School Environmental Safety Incident Reporting System has 26 incidents of crime, violence, and disruptive behaviors that are required for us to report to the state. That is 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So regardless if it's during summer school, if it's over the weekend and some kids came onto a campus when they shouldn't have, and it doesn't only refer to students, it also refers to adults on campus as well. So any of these violations, which you'll see on the next slide, what those required reporting elements are. They're broken down into 4 levels. Level 1 being the most egregious, those highest level offenses, and they include aggravated battery, arson, homicide, kidnapping, and sexual battery. Those are the level 1. Then level 2, which is a step below that, you can see them there to include burglary, drug sale or distribution, and so on.
And John, just again, for the benefit of the public, again, this is disruptive behaviors or any of these that happen on campus or off campus at a school-sponsored event. So it's not like the reporting of a juvenile committing a crime on the weekend at Walmart that has nothing to do with schools.
You are correct. So there's actually 3 areas. So it's on school grounds, on school transportation,
Yes,
or during
gotcha.
a school-sponsored event or activity. So those are the 3 times when we're required to report it. So if it's a kid on the weekend, you know, who does something in the community, that's not something that we would report.
Just out of plain curiosity, this situation where we have a threat made against one of our schools, is that, because that doesn't fit into anything that you just described, so that sounds like that wouldn't be a part of this.
So if it was found to be school-related and there was discipline that was issued by the school district in regards to it, then we would report it.
Okay, so it's a student who makes a threat from his or her home
would
against one of
impact
our
the school.
schools that would
Yes.
impact the school, that would be a part of this as well?
Yes,
Okay.
it sure would. Yep. Level 3 is the next level of offense down, to include any type of major disruption on campus, drug use or possession, and you can see the list from there. And then level 4 are the lowest level required reporting elements, which include alcohol, bullying, harassment, tobacco. So in response to school safety, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission met and discussed revisions to the school safety incident reporting process. So through that group, they met in November, and then in December, they presented some revisions to the reporting system. So it impacts, you can see the CESA rule there. It also impacts Florida administrative codes. And you'll see that in the Student Code of Conduct, where I've highlighted all of the changes that were made there. So these were the actual changes that they made. So the first was the discipline or resultant action code. So there are certain requirements of how we report what we did about it. So we're required to report whether law enforcement was involved and then what law enforcement did about it. We're also required to report what our discipline was for it. Were they suspended out of school? Was it in-school suspension? And then there are several other codes that we can use here, and I have a list of other reporting codes as well. There is a list that we have to select from regarding CESA incidents. So some of the new changes were in regards to charter schools, and the new language requires that charter schools report CESA incidences just like public schools do. So part of what I'm doing today is recommending updates to our student code to align with the new reporting language. I have set up a training for Tuesday to bring our deans in and train them on the new reporting codes because it goes into effect January 17th, and I've also invited Imagine to participate in that as well.
Do they report to you?
So.
Will Imagine as a charter school report their incidents to you or to the state board?
So they use Skyward, so they would report the incidents in Skyward, and then from Skyward, we would be able to glean that
So we're
data
picking
and
it up from
upload
that.
it to the state. Yes,
Okay.
and I'll be working with
I got
Mark
it.
Saltmarsh on the reporting of that as well.
Got it.
Some of the other changes were they wanted to clarify outcomes regarding law enforcement. So was law enforcement involved in it? Sometimes, I mean, we are very blessed in this district to have law enforcement on our campuses. Other districts across the state don't have that, so they don't always call for a deputy for every CESA incident on campus because they have to pick up the phone, call the sheriff's office, have a deputy come out. With us, we normally do consult with deputies when it is a CESA incident, unless it's one where we feel that there was no law violation that needed to be reported. So sometimes, like bullying may be one where it doesn't require an intervention by law enforcement. It would be something that would be handled by the school district. Expands the circumstances where CESA incidents are required to be reported. So there was old language that said if the student did not have the capacity to understand what they did, we didn't have to report it as a CESA. They've removed that language and said even if it's a student with an intellectual disability or a student who may be in kindergarten and not understand truly what they have done, we're still required to report it. But now they've added an action code where we can say, we did not take any disciplinary action because the student did not understand the significance of their behavior. It also, one of the other changes is that law enforcement component. Were they notified and what did they do? Were there charges that came from it? Did the student receive a civil citation? Did they not take action on it even though they were notified, or were they not notified of it? So we're required now to report to them law enforcement involvement in every CESA incident and what the outcome was. And then they want to know again whether criminal charges were filed on the incident. Districts may only code an incident as a locally defined incident if it does not meet a CESA definition, which it was there in the past. They just more clearly define that. So there's a CESA code for fighting, right? But sometimes some districts will have lesser codes that capture fighting as well. Well, what the state is saying here is that if it meets the definition of that CESA code, a district is not allowed to use a locally defined code, which is a lower code, and not report it. So you can't not report an incident that meets the definition of required reporting. So you can't use locally defined codes if it meets the definition of assessor.
That's good. Those are good changes. Yeah.
That is, because they want it to be equitable and fair, and everybody's reporting exactly what's occurring on their campuses, right? So there were 16 assessor incident definitions that they revised. So they did change the definitions to some of those to more clearly outline what is and is not a assessor. And they did change a few of the actual titles of those assessor reporting codes. So larceny, theft is now grand theft. So they changed that one. Physical attack is now simple battery. And vandalism is now criminal mischief. So they changed those headers, and they also modified the definitions, which you'll see in the Student Code of Conduct. There were some definition changes to what is required to be reported under that particular heading. There were 6 revisions to what they call related codes. So we know a lot of times discipline can sometimes be gray, right? It's not always black and white. So this happened, but it was because a kid was under the influence of alcohol, or this happened and it's a tobacco assessor, but the student wasn't actually smoking tobacco, it was vaping related. So there are what we call related codes. So there may have been a student that there was a physical attack on campus, but the student was also intoxicated. So the physical attack would be the assessor code, but the related code would be alcohol, an alcohol-related event. Or it would be a tobacco code with vaping-related events. So they changed some of the related elements for reporting, not just the assessor required reporting elements. Requires each district to designate assessor contact for the district. So, hi.
You're in.
I am the assessor contact for the district and have been for the past several years. They just more clearly outlined it in the language now. But I have been, overseeing those reports, meeting with the principal on those reports, making sure those reports were accurate, and then also providing copies of those reports to the superintendent for review as well. Requires verification that appropriate charter school staff have received required training and have the required assessor policies in place as part of the district's annual assessor certification. So I will be working with our public charter, Imagine, to make sure that they are meeting all of the required assessor reporting requirements now. And then the last slide is just the final rules. You can see them, they're posted on the state website. So what I've done from here is I've taken all of the updated language. I met with Ms. Gavin. We looked at what language is relevant to update in the Student Code of Conduct, because we always want our Student Code of Conducts to be accurate and reflect what is currently taking place with discipline in our schools. So our goal is to update our student codes. This goes into effect January 17th. There's a board meeting January 17th to adopt the recommended changes to the student code. We're training our deans on Tuesday of next week, and they know that the new implementation of these reporting laws will go into effect on January 17th. So we fit it all in from December 16th to January 17th to make sure that we stay in compliance with state laws and reporting regarding discipline.
And all of the changes are highlighted in yellow and underlined and struck through.
Yes, so all of the changes in yellow, and so while I was in there and I was updating them, I also updated our new board members so that it's reflective of what we have here. So I've updated that as well, because if we're going to do it, we might as well do it, right? And then as you scroll through to the section of Level 4 assessor reporting incidents, you'll see that I've highlighted the language, underlined the new language, and struck through the old language.
Yes.
One thing that I also did was I also added the level of offenses, because they've made that a lot more clear now in the language that when you're reporting, you only report one offense, and you report the offense of the most significance, and then the other offense as a related incident. So it all depends on what level for what offense you report. So we added the levels as well.
I kind of like what they did with the bullying, cyberbullying, and harassment piece, because that is always a piece that is confusing to parents.
Yes.
So, if it's not repetitive, then they consider harassment, and then under harassment, if it's repetitive, consider bullying. So it just spells it out a little bit clearer for, I think, families
For sure. And working with our deans 2 years ago, we came to that very same conclusion. Well, if it's not repetitive, but it's meeting the other 2 criteria, it's harassment. Right? So, yes, so it was interesting that that was language that they added in, so I thought that was pretty cool, but yes.
So John, one of the biggest things they brought in the charter schools too, which they had not in the past. Right.
That's
It's
correct.
understandable, private schools don't have any of this, correct?
No, the language was only specific to charters, not to privates.
Right, so another reason why public schools surpass private schools in lots of ways, but this is particularly a very important one because it helps track incidents that aren't available in private schools.
Mhm.
Very good, thank you.
That's true.
Okay, any other statements, questions?
First of all, thanks for putting that together so quickly in that short window of time and to keep us in compliance. I just had a question about the frequency of this reporting. How often do we have to submit this? Is it real time or is it on a monthly basis? Or?
So it actually transmits once a year when we're reporting our FTE reporting, it actually transmits up once a year with that. And then with that, if there's anything that for one reason or another doesn't align with what it should, we'll actually get an audit report of what that was. And then we'll go back through and we look at, what was off in that reporting. So yearly, we're looking at this, we're updating it. And on our dashboard, we have a district discipline dashboard that we use internally to monitor all of this. So when we meet with our deans, we review that monthly. When we meet with our administrative teams at the schools, we're consistently reviewing this discipline data to include assessors as well.
Good. And just one thing to correct on here, my name is misspelled. It's missing an I after the W. If you could just address that as well.
I will make sure that gets
Get that right.
updated. I am very sorry. I'm very sorry.
That's good.
Am I rushed to get this updated? Okay.
Good catch.
Hopefully it's only on the one and not on both.
Right.
I've got a couple of things.
Yes, go ahead.
The first and easy one, you mentioned something about the charter schools input this, and then you guys have to take it and do something with it. Like the charter schools can put in their incidences, and then our employees are responsible for reporting it up to the state. Did I hear that correctly?
So Mark Saltmarsh really handles that reporting to the state, the data reporting piece through Skyward. So I don't know the particulars of it, but I know that Imagine, I believe, does use Skyward as well. So it may just be a matter of transmitting it directly to the state. But I don't want to misspeak.
There's not a lot of labor on it.
No.
I was just going to ask
it's just a
if we are
report.
charging any labor money to the charter schools, or are we just kind of doing a lot of things? But so that was kind of my question there, is are we putting labor into something that we're,
I
not
don't
getting
believe
paid
there
for?
would be much, if any, labor in
Okay.
it for us, but I would let Mark speak to that specifically
Okay.
because I don't handle the reporting piece.
Awesome. And then my second thing, to me, this is so fundamental to so much that we talk about, as far as especially things like bullying and harassment and mental health. And I mean, this is so huge. To some extent, I find this really exciting because it's measurable and it's structured. Again, this is kind of a new board member question, but I think probably at some point all of us talked about bullying or harassment or something on a campaign brochure. I know I would find it interesting to learn what programs has Flagler Schools done to improve these numbers, right? So if we set a goal of a 25% reduction in incidences, and then what are the programs that you guys already have in place or that you can ideate on to make sure we are improving? So this is all fine and good and awesome that we're reporting, but I want it to be zero.
Sure.
And I know that that's
Sure. Yes,
right.
me
Like I
too.
know that's not possible. I get it. I'm a realist, but I also want to. I believe in continuous improvement. So just know that that's something that would be like a next level. So awesome, we're reporting it, but what are we doing to improve it?
Sure.
Is that
And do we have, is this what we're using to measure those results also, or do we have an internal system of tracking, or is this the universal system of tracking these behavior
So we actually have an internal dashboard that we use called our discipline dashboard that that is specific to each school, that shows all of our internal level offenses as well as assessor coding and what the outcomes were. So we're tracking all of that, and we're meeting with our deans and our administration monthly at minimum to review what is the most common offense and how can we look at addressing that issue in a better way. So we have those conversations monthly with each campus. We have student services team meetings scheduled monthly with each administrative team where we review that data. What is the most common offense? What are we doing about it? How do those numbers compare to the year prior? So we're continuously having those conversations and always thinking about how we can continue to improve and make things better. We're looking at a lot of in lieu options because we know a lot of times exclusionary practices only make the situations worse. So we're doing a lot of unique and outside of the box things to help improve our numbers and decrease our discipline.
Anybody else? All right, John, thank you very
All
much.
right,
for
thank you
this.
guys very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move along now and ask Mr. Ouellette to join us to discuss the TPG contract.
Chairman Snero, board members, Superintendent Middlestat. TPG is an outside vendor that has been around in the state and the nation for a few years now. They're currently at a point where they have contracted with 15 school districts in the state of Florida, and from my discussions with them, they'll be at 18, most likely, headed into the next year. They're satisfying a need that we've talked about. This presentation up here was their initial presentation they shared with us at the end of October as part of our initial look at into the services they provide. What they do is they couch this as a cultural exchange, and it really is on a deep level. They look at teachers that are at least 2 years in the profession and are proficient in English. And then they look at their certifications and they match their certifications with the needs of the district. It's as part of the service, they do a pre-screen, they do initial onboarding and expectations, they do an acculturation as to how they're going to be a difference between the schools they've worked at to where they'd be headed. We do a needs assessment and we kind of share with them our projected needs headed into the next school year. They provide us with an initial list of possible candidates. Our principals or hiring committees would then interview those folks, and we have the final say as to whether or not we believe they'd be right. Are they a fit for Rimfrey or elementary school, for example? Obviously, we're looking at, as far as our district goes, would be critical shortage areas. And you need to look no farther than where our advertised vacancies kind of scroll across this school year. And math, science, teachers, students, disabilities, so those are the big three off the top of my head. But that would also be part of the initial needs assessment with our staff this spring as far as where we were looking. As far as economy of scale, I mean, we are not like a lot of the larger districts. For example, Duval County, I reached out to their chief of HR. They were very happy with the results these past 2 years, and they plan on expanding their usage of this company. Will be on a much smaller scale, probably less than a dozen. But it does definitely fulfill a need. The contract is a standard contract as far as what they've used with the other districts, but one of the first things we did was have Ms. Gavin look through it. We sent it back to them with the questions that Ms. Gavin had, and right now we're at the point where we're having that talk back and forth to just kind of answer any of the questions that attorneys may have with each other.
Question. Does something like this ever take away a job from like a local person, or? is it
That
like-
would never be the intent. Right now, we have I'm thinking science in my head right now, we have the science positions that we filled with long-term subs since the beginning of the year because we haven't been able to find somebody. So when we start looking for an ask for it, it'll just be critical shortage areas where by no means do we want to replace any of our existing folks or candidates that would be highly qualified coming out of our area.
I had the pleasure of actually speaking to their chief operating officer and actually teacher last year's conference, TPG, and also with a school board member from Polk who highly recommended their services, that it was so good. They were amazed at how good the service was. And right now, currently, to obtain a visa is $5,000 to $6,000. One visa is $5,000 to $6,000. They're charging us $12,000, which is a bargain when you think about bringing somebody in. Most communities and most businesses today are recruiting internationally. They have to.
Yeah.
They have to. I mean, in medicine and any business you look at, that's where they're bringing in. They're going there, they're hiring, and then bringing them back, and it's very expensive. Very expensive. This is reasonable compared to what you would pay if you went and did this job yourself. So, I mean, I was impressed last year, and I didn't know we were that far into this conversation. So I was happy to see this on the agenda, because I think it's something that we could benefit from if we took it slow. We're talking, 4 or 5 teachers try, and see how that goes, and not impact our current staff, but support our current staff. I think that you're right. That is a very important piece. This is not to replace them. This is to find teachers we cannot seem to find, and we're not the only ones looking. So, I mean, I'm glad we're at this point. It does have value. I see it. Anybody else?
I would just say, I think we kind of don't have a choice but to start to look at alternative options like this, to get a little creative and out of the box. The districts that are using this, I've only heard good things. I haven't heard anything negative. Financially, it actually is more affordable because you're not paying the retirement, the health insurance, and all the rest of it.
It's a bargain.
However, I think Christy's point of, if we had local Floridians or folks from wherever that would be available and willing to fill some of these positions, I think that would be the best way to go. But we're obviously not at that, we're not there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think this is going to become a more difficult and challenging problem than it is right now, especially for those shortage areas, like in the STEM fields. So I think slow, evaluate, see how it goes.
And I think that puts us in a unique position as far as scale. We're not one of the larger districts where we'd be looking at this in multitudes. Let's try our first 100 or some number like that, where our scale will really allow us to evaluate as we progress through their 3 to 5 year term.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great concept. I think we need to
have teachers.
We do. We need teachers.
Well, and the other thing that's like the impact that's happening is we've got folks that have other really important jobs in our schools that are being pulled to cover classrooms, and they're not able then to do the other job that they were actually hired to do. So
I make for a stronger system.
I guess I just have one question. This might be something that we take offline, but from an employee engagement standpoint, I would just be interested to know, are there any downsides if I'm a current teacher within Flagler Schools? Is there anything that I'm mad at with this, right? Is this person making more money than me? Or is this person, that's probably what I would be interested in, just to make sure.
This person comes in at our beginning of our salary schedule, and like Ms. Mercero said, that the capture for the company is as far as where their profit margin is not something because we're doing any kind of overages on payments. This is the differences in you know, FRS and our benefit package. So on paper, the benefit package that our standard employees get and these folks, I mean, are the same.
My $400 a month I'm getting to supplement my health insurance, my, you know, all of those things that add to my package. Our internal employees, that package is still a greater package than what this would be.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and
Awesome.
you know, so there's no difference in that, and I think our employees would have cause for concern with us if we were reaching for folks that weren't in that critical shortage area, you know. But that's not the case. I mean, right now, the companion thing that we're working on is what we're trying to get together with NEFEC as far as taking our alternative cert folks and getting them to their full certifications. Because so right now we have so many folks in different stages of trying to become teachers in these critical shortage areas, whereas these folks would be coming at us highly qualified. It would replace some of the sub-issues we currently have.
So I would love to see a kind of a two-tier approach. I mean, I think it's the idea of, there's a saying, Band-Aid or something. But I mean, I like the idea of, you know, we need to make things work for now, but you know, Angela is so brand new. Like I'm so excited still to meet with her. I am getting the name right, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because she's fabulous. And so, you know, what are those other things that we're doing, whether it's referral bonuses or, you know, what are we, you know, looking nationally or different, you know, national events or, you know, what are we doing so that we do have U.S. citizens who we are, you know, we are supporting. So it'd be great to kind of, this to be like a two-tier approach. And I know you guys are already, I know you're already doing that. You know, I know you're already working your hearts out to recruit. But I think I agree certainly with Cheryl that we need to have teachers. And so if this is what it takes, as long as the community, the teachers, everybody knows that we are very much working to improve where we even already are with recruiting and retention.
Absolutely.
That was a big ramble, but thank you for listening, sir.
No problem.
Anybody else? You know, I read a statistic just the other day that was just kind of blew my mind, but that in the United States, public school systems teach 90% of the students in America. 90%. So you've got charters and you've got privates doing 10%. And you can see how we're all struggling for the same, everybody is struggling for the same things. Yeah, and we're you know, and I think everybody's trying to come up with unique ways, as you mentioned, to try to attract them. I mean, Palm Coast and Flagler attracts them because we have a beach. I mean, that's one attraction.
Right.
At least it's natural and we have it, you know, and we use it as much as we possibly can to live in paradise. Remember the old paradise? Everybody's living in paradise. Well, paradise is struggling because we can't attract enough teachers. So I think this is really a great way to try. And I did meet a teacher that was involved. She was a language teacher, and she was incredible just to talk to.
What are some of the countries that we would be getting folks from? And forgive me if that was in the presentation.
I think it is if you scroll through.
Yeah, I think that they're everywhere.
They're from all over.
Yeah.
They are.
I mean, that admittedly is exciting. I mean, we have a lot of students here who were born in Flagler County and have remained in Flagler County,
Okay.
and so to bring
Yeah, keep going. There's a slide that shows.
to bring a
There
little
you
of the
go.
world to them, I think is exciting.
Philippines, India.
Yeah, this person was from India, and she was just exceptional.
Yeah, that's
And I'm
cool.
thinking, wow, and this is Polk County, so, you know, yeah, so, there we have it. Anybody else?
So the final question, I promise. This is, we are looking at for the next school year?
We are looking at for
23, 24?
for the 23-24 school year.
Okay.
That would be our initial.
Yeah.
And so we've got to kind of get things in line with this vendor like now, because as they're reaching out and beginning their discussions.
Yeah, you don't want to get
in their
too-
recruitment.
Yeah.
And
Can't just
so-
give someone a plane ticket
Yeah,
tomorrow?
then we'll lose out.
Yes, because they currently have 500 placements
Placements now,
in
yeah.
Florida and
That's
2,000 nationally.
That's a lot.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So I guess, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So the idea of waiting to the 23-24 school year, actually at first I was like, okay, that's good, but I mean, we have some immediate needs. Are we thinking about?
Our immediate needs won't be satisfied by this, because exactly what you
Because of
said
the
about the
process
visa
with the
process.
visa,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and they do have an onboarding process for
Yeah.
them to kind of
Yeah.
get them prepared, because I'm sure, you know, an average day in the life of a school teacher in Bombay is
Yeah.
much different than
Bob,
on
can we
coast.
find out that specific lead time, just so that we have that for the future, like, you
The
know,
specific
it's-
lead time I was given by Mr. Voss was, you better have this done by January.
Yeah.
If you want,
If-
otherwise
next
you're going
year.
to the back of the
Because I
line.
think
want
the
the next
visa
year.
time,
Yeah.
it's about 5
So-
months.
So that's
Yeah, 5, 6
so about
months.
5,
Yeah.
okay.
So they begin their processes now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's cutting it tight.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, so the next one is we're going down to 20.01. Request board approval for MOU with Flagler County Education Foundation. We want Ms. Gavin and
Ms. Rizzo.
Mr. Rizzo.
Happy New Year.
Good afternoon, Chairman Sorrow, board members, superintendent. We are here to formalize what has been going on between the Education Foundation and the school district for a number of years. I am not going to say that there may not have been a full-fledged, full MOU between the Ed Foundation and the school district prior to my involvement with the board in 2006. But as we know, the Ed Foundation started with the school district in 1990. We were doing things a little bit more leniently, a little bit more relaxed, and so we were unable to find, when I met with Ms. Rizzo regarding some changes in job descriptions and everything, and it just happened that the MOU came up of whether there was one, and I said, well, there is, but the MOUs that have existed were back in 2013 and I believe 2016, when we made adjustments because the Ed Foundation was growing. The needs of the Ed Foundation were growing in terms of needing additional support staff. And so those MOUs in 2013 and 2016 really actually highlighted the need for the Ed Foundation to increase its staff from just the director of the Ed Foundation to actually having support staff and employees in place. So with that said, we are now memorializing what the expectations are from the school district and from the Ed Foundation, because as you know, they have their own board, and they and Ms. Rizzo reports to that board, and then the employees work for that board, but they also receive benefits through the district. So this is a MOU to kind of commemorate and memorialize the understanding between the two parties.
I for one say this has been long overdue, actually, but there have been some major changes that needed to be incorporated, and this is perfect time for those changes.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going to applaud you both for sitting down and getting this pulled together for us. Questions? Ms. Conklin?
I know that there was some sort of previous agreement because, and that was my question earlier, what are the changes? Because when we have an updated document, I like to see what's changed in it.
So what I can,
I know their board chair was designated as.
What I can tell you is in 2013, some of the preamble that is contained herein is the same preamble that was in the 2013. When you got to the subject matter of what the changes were going to be post-preamble, it was just saying there is a need for a finance individual to help support with audits and with budgeting and with making sure that databases are accurately maintained. Because prior to that, they were relying upon one of our support staff individuals to provide that service to them. So the verbiage there has not been changed. If you
want, we can add.
It's September
Is the
3rd,
Jacob Oliva
2013.
the one you guys found,
Actually,
2016?
The 2016 was Jacob Oliva. Prior to that, it was Janet Valentine in 2013. So those were the two agreements that I was able to provide. And again, it was really basic preambles, just setting forth that the Education Foundation is established because they are a 501c3 organization, that they have to comply with the statutory requirements of, I think it's Florida Statute 230 if I remember correctly. Then it just sets forth that they are securing funding and resources to support the mission and vision of the Flagler County School District. So this commemorates that understanding. It gives a little bit more specifics of the type of items that we provide to them. For example, we provide to them office space. We provide to them
So it's
computers.
more comprehensive.
It's more comprehensive than what previously existed. Previously, it was just a shell of information, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think that when Deborah came to me and asked me to draft it, we were looking for it really more towards her ability to get that additional support staff in place. So she highlighted certain things like Florida Statute 320 or and set forth that what an Ed Foundation did and how it was a 501c3.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit more comprehensive. It's a little bit more
If you have the previous ones instead of
we can attach
us
those.
hunting and
Absolutely.
pecking through
Yep.
all of the 100 years of meetings.
And I apologize, unfortunately, to people here that, you know, my start was 2006 with the district. There had been no changes to anything with the Ed Foundation until 2013 during my tenure, and unfortunately, board docs were not as thorough and
no, that's fine.
comprehensive in terms of the documentation that was maintained during that time period prior to me.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? So you'll provide us with a.
Absolutely.
So we can look at the changes.
Absolutely.
And
Happy
like
to
I
do
said,
that.
I think that this is definitely more comprehensive than we've had, and it clearly outlines the actual association between the district and the foundation, which is overdue. So that's good.
And expectations
Yeah,
and
perfect. Yeah.
parameters.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jumping down now to old business, does anybody here have old business to discuss? Old business, or would like to bring up? Ms. Conklin?
I think it's old business, and it goes back to kind of the teacher retention piece, and kind of what Kathy was just talking about before, maybe a future presentation, but something where we really can begin to look at. We did this many, many years ago. There's probably a really old presentation somewhere around, but looking at retention, looking at retirement, right? So there were age brackets, right? Strands of when we can anticipate employees retiring and whether or not those numbers were large, small, or whatnot, so we can plan accordingly. And then looking at what the retention rates were among our 1 to 3 year teachers and the retention rates from 3 to 10 years, say. But the big one back at that point in time we were looking at were the number of teachers that would be retiring in the next 3 years to 5 years, and what, just to be able to know kind of, are we being hit with a tsunami, or are we being hit with a, just a large wave? And I know that Bob is working on, and his team are working on a number of recruitment and retention strategies and initiatives. It might be a really great opportunity to just showcase and share with the board, but also with the community, what we're doing to kind of address the need. And then the second component of this, because I'm hearing this, because we've hired so many new teachers, young teachers right out of school, and you all have heard the housing crisis and affordable housing. So I don't know, maybe this is a little new business, but, you know, is there an opportunity for us to have a conversation with some of our other governmental partners about a housing initiative for our staff and teachers? Some sort of, because there is an incredible number of multifamily complexes being, you know, developed and out there, that I wonder if there is a way to provide priority to our teachers. I know that when they were building off of the Bunnell Golf Course, there was an incentive for law enforcement. And, you know, so I just wonder if there is an initiative that we might be able to look at that might help with retaining some of our folks here, so we don't lose them because of housing.
I would believe that might come under new business, because we have never discussed the possibility of speaking with the county. That would be the county as well as the city of Palm Coast.
Yeah, I was
To
thinking
see
maybe a conversation or a topic for those
Yeah.
intergovernmental
if there's a possibility of some
conversation.
kind of arrangement that they might be able to consider for maintaining housing for new employees.
Or teachers.
Teachers, yeah.
Teachers. It's
just
hard to live
teachers.
here if you're a teacher.
It is.
So just direction from the board, we meet quarterly with the other governmental entities. That could be a
As a topic for next-
conversation
yes,
that we
a
could
topic.
have
Maybe a topic.
prior to even coming back as a workshop.
Yeah, I think that would be a good topic for
If you guys are
for all of us.
comfortable
What
with
do you
that.
think?
That's
Do I have
huge.
3 people? I do, yes. We're getting a lot of shakes.
So you want it as a workshop topic?
4.
Okay. Housing.
Or do you want to add it as a topic to
For the intergovernmental. Intergovernmental, I think
I think
intergovernmental.
starting there would be the first step
I agree,
for the conversation, and then come back to you.
as a workshop. Yeah, so intergovernmental first.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, anything else? Well, I think we kind of got past old business, new business. Anybody new business?
Real quick, going back to
Go
old
right ahead.
business. And
Old
Cheryl,
business?
yeah, old business. Forgive
Yep.
me again if I'm not doing this right. We last time talked about the Belterre Swim and Racket Club. What are our next steps? I know at least one of us asked for additional details, more robust. Is it, you know?
I think that we're currently in a holding pattern for Mr. Freeman to come up with some information from both the county and the city as to their actual positions, whether they're willing to participate financially or not. And if we get a no from either one of them or both of them, then that puts us back to a new drawing board. Am I correct, Mr. Freeman, in that analysis?
Well, and there were details from the financial.
Yes.
So Madam Chair, if I can just interject. So there
Yes.
were several things you asked for us to bring
Yes.
back at a workshop. We will do that in February.
Okay, great.
February. Okay, we'll do that in February. Fair enough.
At this type of workshop or the information?
Information workshop.
At the information workshop in February.
Because the team had a
So
couple
like the
things to
third
explain.
Tuesday in
there was a
February,
couple
we'll
that
talk
we were
about that
discussing.
again.
Absolutely.
That sounds good.
Thank
All right.
you.
Yeah, anybody else?
When it's appropriate, I'd like to revisit consent item 7.02.
Purchase orders over 10,000?
Yes. There were just 2 items here that I wanted some clarification on, that were some larger purchases. One was a Let's Talk platform subscription for $42,120.
Okay.
And the second one was the single point watering system for the Tomcat batteries, $21,664.80.
Ms. Patty has graciously approached the table
Thank
to
you.
help us explain those expenses.
Okay, so Mr. Deasing is out sick today, but I'm going to tell you what he said about the Let's Talk. And I don't know if Jason Wheeler here?
He's
Yeah.
here.
So it's a community engagement tool that supports two-way communication with parents and people in the community. And can you explain how we use it? Because that description doesn't really.
Yeah, if you go on our website, if anywhere how to contact us, connect with us, it goes to our Let's Talk platform. And what it does is basically it filters these questions to people here within this building, so it bypasses a third and fourth person. So if someone has a question, say about HR, it'll go directly to HR instead of having to go through somebody to filter to this person, this person, this person. It enables us to run polls as well. We've done that in the past. We've used it when we did the half cent. We also used it when we did rezoning. It enabled our parents, our stakeholders, to contact us if they could not attend our listening sessions. So it's a forward-facing way to get those questions answered from the community. And
how long have we been using this?
Using it for just over a year right now.
Barely.
Okay. And any feedback on its effectiveness from those that are using it yet?
I've not heard anyone complaining about it. I know transportation at the beginning of the year, both years when we had the transportation issues, a lot of folks use this, and it's enabled them to reach out directly to these parents as opposed to having to go to a phone line that was constantly busy. And Terrence and his team, they did a lot of work getting people on Let's Talk and answering these questions almost instantaneously.
Is there real-time chat, or is this a submit and we respond?
It's a submit and we respond within 48 hours.
Okay. And do we have any measures on actual engagement?
Yeah, and what happens is that the customer, when they get to engage with us, then what they do is when a conversation is closed out, they give us a ranking on how well they believe we've answered their questions. And this has enabled us to, I spoke about it last year when we first started this, is that you may have some difficult conversation, you read the email, the question is like, oh my gosh, this is going to go wrong. But you give them the answer and you get a 10 back because they appreciate the timeliness as opposed to just sitting in an email inbox somewhere. It does let our folks know, if they for some reason didn't answer in a timely manner, hey, time to answer, please answer. And we've had very few of those.
Okay. And does, obviously this is to increase our communication to the community, but also I'm sure there's some efficiency measures here because it automates some of the tasks that we might have to have a person doing those
does.
tasks.
And they have an option. We've not used it just yet, but they have a bot. It's a matter of inputting all the questions that we get and having time to do that. And we're looking at what that looks like for us. I know a couple of districts in the state have used this in the past. We're not by any means the only district to use. I think Volusia has just signed on last year or this year, I think. But it enables to streamline that as well.
Okay, and is this for the communications department? Is that who oversees this technology, or?
It falls under Mr. Deasing's department.
All right. And do we have like actual engagement in the sense that, if we're chalking up this 48,000 42,000 and change to efficiencies, have we measured, are we getting hundreds of inquiries through this? Is it just a handful?
It ebbs and flows.
Are we seeing a return on investment?
Yeah, it ebbs and flows. The beginning of the year, the beginning of the semester is usually when you have your greater input. But we can run a report and let you know what that looks like.
Yeah, I'd like to see a user, a participation from the community.
How many
we're actually, because if we're using this to save, and it's wonderful, but if we're not, if it's not being utilized, then, maybe it's not the best thing.
And how many unique users? Mm-hmm. That would be the
and that does as well. I mean, when we have some frequent flyers, but a lot of them are first 1 and 2 times.
Yeah.
And they get their question answered and move on.
Yeah.
To me, Will, this is something where cost savings are great. I'm all for that. Communication is fundamental. And so if we found that the numbers aren't as high as we think they would, then I think the next question would be, how are we communicating this out to everybody? And do people know about this? Because this kind of stuff is really important to the district.
Yeah, it's tied to our social media as well as our website. Whenever you have a question about something with the district, it's tied to Let's Talk. It goes directly into that.
Okay.
But I think the point is really valuable, Will, in that we're a year into this. So in what way do we evaluate this
Absolutely.
type of tool to justify?
We started at 0.
Right, how many people are using it? Unique users are using it, and is it?
Yeah, because there's
tons of tools
There's
out
all
there
these tools,
like
and
that.
I mean, there's some that are designed that you know, sometimes these more, and I don't know if this is a middle tier, a high tier on the price point. You know, 42,000 seems like a lot, but you know, there's softwares that are that are tiered in price because they can manage certain amount of active users at one time, things like that, and you graduate through them. So that you know, are we way up here where are we overkill on the resources where there was that's what I'm trying to get at with those matrices. But I mean, this may be the best thing right now, right? So, but it would just be helpful to have those kind of matrices.
And like, are we paying for the bot but not using the bot?
Right, those type of things, you know, so.
So I think if we could get more information just to explain how the system's working for us would be beneficial.
Mr. Diskin, I can work on that for you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be cool.
Okay, very good. And watering, go ahead.
That's not me.
No,
Yeah, this
that's
is
fine.
the piece of equipment used by custodial.
like, I'm
I'm out of here.
I can talk to you about that. Good afternoon,
Good
Board,
afternoon.
Madam Chair, Ms. Superintendent Middlestad. This piece of equipment is used by custodial department. It's basically a walk-behind floor scrubber, and came with a couple extra batteries. We purchased a couple extra batteries. The operating timeline of this is about 3.5 hours, so you put the batteries in so you have a full time for the employee. An 8-hour employee can do the floor scrubbing. It bought on state contract, so you know we're getting the best price, and it's replacing equipment that we already have.
So is this? It's saying here, but are we buying batteries, or it's a single point watering system?
It is the piece of equipment, and then I think there were batteries as a separate add-on.
I see. So this is a whole piece of machinery.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a walk behind, and there's two of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. This just when looking at it, it looked more like some sort of a facility or a system on plumbing to
Like
water.
okay.
So I didn't really understand
Well,
what
you
that.
know what? I bet you the batteries are 648. You see the breakdown?
Yeah, there it is, batteries
I
at
bet you.
the bottom.
Yes.
Well, it does have batteries, but now I see. I don't understand what this is now. So
It's a walk-behind
This is for a whole
scrubber.
piece of equipment for the 21,000.
Well, there's two of them.
Two of them. Okay. Okay, that answers my question. Thank
Okay,
you.
any other questions?
Keeping things clean.
New business? Thank you both.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on then to public comment.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We did old business, then we went back and clarified for
We went back to old
board member. If I could throw out a piece of new business, please,
Sure.
I need some input on.
New business.
On behalf of the district team, we'd like to ask that the school board members send up another executive session. We want to continue conversations regarding our Flagler County's Education Association negotiations. And if we could look at our calendars now, everything is always time sensitive in the world that we live in. And we have to publicly notice this 7 days in advance. If we're able to next Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, the team is standing ready to meet with you. We just need 1 hour. And we were proposing perhaps next Wednesday in the morning from 8 to 9, so you can go about your day and have it all undisrupted. But
Wednesday
again,
morning is
we
my
are-
only time.
We're at the mercy of the board, so.
Your only time for what, Sally?
Wednesday
It works?
morning for next week would be my only
So
availability.
Wednesday the 11th.
I'm
Okay, so
flexible.
11th at 8? The 11th at 8 works for everybody then?
Anytime.
Yes, I can do that.
Can we do
Anytime?
8:30?
8:30.
It's
8:30 work?
That's fine.
Bring your own
8:30?
donuts.
Okay.
Yeah,
8:30 to
8:30, got it.
no idea. I gotta get
Next
my
Wednesday,
dad
the
out.
11th.
No.
We'll
You
publish.
don't
We
need
will
to
publish it.
explain- I mean,
Thank you, board.
So 8:30, right?
yes, ma'am.
Gotta get in my phone.
We'll send an email out. We'll send a
I know you will,
notification.
but I'm putting it in now,
Yeah, no.
just so I know.
Somebody will put something on.
Okay,
Dana or Megan will.
okay, that's great. Anything else, Superintendent?
No other new
Staff?
business, thank you.
All right. Public comment, do we have public comment?
We do? First person is Mr. Feldbauer, Michael Feldbauer, regarding Narcan.
Welcome back, Happy New Year.
Thank you, welcome, and Happy New Year to you all. I'm here just briefly because at the last workshop that I attended, we discussed the Narcan program, and obviously I was very impressed with the board's response and Ms. Conklin saying we can't wait, we got to move on it. So I'm here just to see if there's anything that you have not gotten that you need, that you can put the program together to have your final meeting on. If there's anything that we have that we can provide for you to get that accomplished, we're ready. And so I'm here to ask that and just to remind everybody that we are here to provide whatever you might need as far as hopefully answers to the questions. And if we don't have them, we'll find them. And of course, we're ready to start ordering materials for you.
We cannot answer your questions at this particular time.
Okay.
But I'm certain that we can get together when this meeting concludes and give you a little bit of an update.
Fine.
And let you know where we're at, but thank you.
Okay. Okay, my primary thing was to see if there's any questions that you have not been able to get answers
Okay.
to that we could help you and provide for you.
Perfect.
I just want to let you know that we are there for that purpose.
All right.
And hopefully we can move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, thank you. We have another?
We do. Thomas Worthington, I believe it's on CDL instructor program.
Okay.
Did I do that right? Okay.
Mr. Worthington.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Happy New Year.
My name is Tom Worthington. I've been with the school 25 years. You're very familiar. Okay? I just want to take a little bit of your time. Not a lot, a little. Okay? We have some problems in our programs, and I'd like you to take a closer look at it. Okay? We're having trouble getting. First of all, thank you for expanding and giving us bigger classrooms and all the furniture that goes with it. I appreciate that very much, okay? We're having problems getting instructors, okay? If you have a CDL license, you do not work for $17 an hour, okay? This is not me. I just want you to figure this out. I have been sick for the last 2 years, okay? I'm not in charge of the program, okay? Renee is my boss, okay? Bruce Winters is now my boss. He was my student 11 years ago, okay? Great guy. He is doing everything right. I have some things to pass out. If you would take a time to just look at it, that's all I'm asking, and get back to us. I need help. I need to retire. I'm 76 years old. My wife is sick. I'm sorry too. God brought me here to do this job. I can't leave. I retired in May 23rd. Guess where I am? I'm back. He said, you're not finished. So I would ask that you just take the time to read it and maybe get back to us. I don't want to see this program go down the drain. I've been here 25 years. You know when back in the early 92 is when the school started, okay, 92. And I've been there since 97. And I'm going to tell you, there's been a lot of things that are good about this school. It's one of the best teaching schools in the state of Florida. I want to be number one, okay? I need your help. I need good people. And I can't get them at the present rate that you're paying. And I just ask for your help, okay? God bless y'all.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.
Who do we want to? Kathy, you want to?
And with that, Chair, there are no other public comments.
Okay. seeing no other public comments, we're going to go to closing. We will need to go to closing comments. Anybody have anything they'd like to add? Closing comments?
Just, I'll start it. Just Happy New Year to everybody, and I just want, I'm grateful for the public comments. We encourage public input, so thank you for coming up and sharing with us today.
Happy New Year, everybody, and I'm looking forward to the year ahead and for all of us getting to work.
Ditto.
That's easy.
I would say the same, and I'm sorry Tom left. I just wanted to thank him for, you can see the dedication that he has to this program and not wanting to let it go because he wants to make sure that there are people there to fill those slots. And he brings forward a topic that when we have adjuncts working in some of these specialty fields, I think we discussed this before, like for example in the medical program, this would be another, the CDL program, the heavy machine operator program, and I'm sure Renee could give us a laundry list. But being able to come up with something that provides a little bit more flexibility when it comes to compensation for some of these areas, but that was really it, and just to thank him for his years of service. But Happy New Year to everybody. I'm looking forward to elevating excellence, as our superintendent reminds us all the time. I'm working with everybody. So.
Okay. I too would like to wish everybody a 2023 like you never had before. So thank you, and with that, I'm going to adjourn today's meeting.